On the evening of March 18, 2023, around 11:30 p.m., in the Indian state of Madhya Pradesh, whose capital is Bhopal, a woman named Salia Perveen arrived at the hospital in the city of Reva with her husband and her mother. Salia was in a hysterical state, pleading with the doctor to save her husband's life, as he had ingested poison in a fit of rage and lost control of himself. The doctor examined the husband, who was unconscious at the time, but it was too late. He had already passed away. Upon hearing the news, Salia was devastated and began screaming in the hospital. She now had the difficult task of informing his family of his death. Salia called his father using his phone. The relationship between the father and son had been strained for 7 years due to the father's disapproval of his son's marriage to Salia. When his father received the news of his son's death, he broke down in tears and rushed to the hospital. By the time he arrived, the police were already there to investigate the circumstances of the death and arrange for the body to be taken for an autopsy. Salia informed the police that her husband had been extremely angry and consumed the poison. She mentioned that he had recently become depressed and had been contemplating suicide. The doctor confirmed that the husband had died from a large dose of poison. However, the father did not believe this story, as he knew his son well and couldn't imagine him taking his own life regardless of how tough things were. He became suspicious of Salia, especially when he noticed her speaking in a low voice with her mother and behaving strangely, as if she were acting out the role of a grieving wife. Whenever the father looked her way, she would start crying and shouting, but when he wasn't looking, she behaved normally and conversed with her mother. The police questioned all family members. The father testified that it was impossible for his son to commit suicide and expressed his suspicion of Salia. However, these were just suspicions, and the police needed concrete evidence against her. To the police, it appeared to be a suicide, particularly because Salia had brought her husband to the hospital, which seemed like an unlikely act if she were involved in his death. Shahid was passionate about everything related to phone repairs. In 2015, a large store specializing in phone repairs opened in the city, attracting many young people interested in the field. Some of them, including Shahid and a girl named Salia Perveen, submitted their resumes and were hired. This is where the two met and quickly developed a friendship that blossomed into love. They decided to talk to their families about getting married. When Shahid's father inquired about his son's future wife, some close acquaintances who knew her advised against the marriage due to her bad reputation. The father opposed the marriage, but Shahid was deeply in love with Salia and determined to marry her. Despite his parents' refusal, the couple married in 2016. After the marriage, Shahid's father disowned him and severed all ties. The couple moved into a small apartment they rented together. Salia's father frequently visited their home, almost as if he lived with them, which bothered Shahid. The couple had a daughter, but over time, problems arose. Salia's father always intervened to mend their relationship. Shahid's father was also aware of these issues but never visited or interfered, as he had disowned his son for disobeying him. Despite his anger, the father was shocked by his son's death and was convinced that his son could not have taken his own life. He believed that his son, who had defied him to marry Salia, had a strong character and would not give up easily. 3 days after Shahid's death, his father noticed that Salia quickly returned to her normal life, wearing revealing clothes and makeup, and constantly holding and searching through Shahid's phone. When the father asked her for the phone, she brought it on March 21st. Shahid's sister decided to search the phone for any clues that might help the family uncover the truth, especially since the police considered the case a tragic accident and did not suspect the wife. While searching the phone, the sister found a deleted video. She recovered it, and although most were unimportant, one video shocked the family. In it, Shahid claimed he was poisoned with tea to end his life, saying, "My wife Salia, her lover, and her parents plan to end my life for 60 months and are responsible for my death. They poisoned me with tea." The father's suspicions were confirmed. He quickly went to the police and showed them the video. He also informed them that a neighbor had heard a fight between the couple a few days before Shahid's death. The couple had visited a marriage counselor to resolve their ongoing issues, who had given them advice on improving their marriage before they returned home. When Salia was questioned, she told the police that the reason for the fight was her husband's abuse and his alcoholism. The police did not suspect her. They always sympathized with her because she always cried bitterly and seemed to be telling the truth. When the father noticed the police's negligence in his son's case and their lack of proper investigation, he requested a change in the assigned detective. A new detective took over the case and began the investigation. The video filmed by the victim was recorded just minutes before his death, in which he accused his wife, her lover, and her parents. The police also found traces of poison in the tea and water glasses in the couple's apartment. When the police questioned their neighbors, they confirmed that a man indeed visited Salia when the victim left for work, and they suspected an affair between them. It was revealed that this man's name is Shakil, living in the same city, Reva. Shakil, Salia, and her mother were arrested and interrogated, confronted with the video in which the victim accused them of ending his life. They confessed to their involvement in the case. Here is when we understand what really happened to the victim. After working at the store where he met his wife for 2 years, he got a well-paying job in a city far from where they lived. He was away from home the entire day, leaving at 7 a.m. and returning at 10 p.m. During this time, Salia would always go out to run errands. She met her lover at one of the stores where Shakil worked as a salesman. Shakil was attracted to Salia, and the store where he worked was owned by his father, a well-known trader in the city. After Shakil was attracted to Salia, he got her phone number and called her to arrange a meeting. A relationship developed between the two, and Shakil began visiting her at her apartment when the victim was not home. Strangely, Salia's mother was aware of this relationship. Every time Shakil visited Salia, he brought her expensive gifts and money, and her mother would cover for the relationship. However, Shakil's frequent visits started to arouse the neighbors' suspicions. One of the neighbors decided to inform the victim about what was happening in his home during his absence. When the victim confronted his wife about the matter, she denied everything, although he did not believe her and became suspicious of her. He tried to speak with her parents to persuade them to convince her to end the affair or separate from him, but Salia's parents were very angry because he accused their daughter of infidelity without evidence. Here is when the victim started to suspect that her parents also knew about the relationship. On March 8, 2023, the argument between the couple intensified over this issue, and the neighbors called the police because there was shouting. When they went to the police station, they were then taken to a marriage counselor to resolve their issues. When the couple returned home, Salia accused the victim of abusing her, while he accused her of infidelity. This is when the lovers began planning to end the victim's life because he stood in their way. Shakil initially rejected the idea of ending Shahid's life, fearing they might get caught and spend their lives in prison. However, through text messages, Salia explained the entire plan to him, assuring him they would not get caught. She said she would put poison in his tea and tell everyone that her husband took his own life. Shakil agreed to the plan, and on the evening of March 18, 2023, Shahid with his wife and her parents were all at home. Shakil was hiding in one of the rooms, unbeknownst to Shahid. Salia had previously bought the poison. After Shahid finished his work and returned home at 11:30 p.m., Salia first offered him a glass of water, followed by the poisoned tea. Moments later, he began to feel nauseous. At this point, Salia's lover emerged from the room and locked the door to prevent Shahid from escaping and seeking help. After an hour, Shahid tried to open the door and screamed for help, but to no avail. He then decided to record a video accusing them of taking his life, naming his wife, her lover, and her parents, as they were all present in the house. While the victim was dying in the room, the lovers waited outside for his death. By 11 p.m., they confirmed that his screams had stopped and opened the room to find him lifeless. They waited another half hour before taking him to the hospital, pretending they were trying to save him. With all this evidence, the wife, Shaquille, and Salia's mother, Mona, were arrested and charged with murder. Salia's father managed to convince the police he was unaware of the plan and was asleep, thinking Shaquille was just a friend of his son-in-law. The three criminals corroborated his story, stating he was not involved in the crime or the plan. The three criminals are now in jail awaiting trial, with a likely life sentence.